My loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Dustina. This is Spiritual Boujee Astrology, and we are going to take a look at the astrological transits of April 7th to April 13th. Now, a couple quick little announcements before we get into the transits. First things first, right before I did the month ahead forecast, I was in the process of booking two events, but I hadn't wrapped them up yet, so I did not announce them yet. I'm announcing them now. So, I have two events booked, one that's going to happen immediately, and the other one's going to happen in June. So we got some time. First one is going to be the Gypsy Holistic Affair. I will be doing that in Fort Smith, Arkansas at the Wyndham Hotel this weekend, like quite literally Libra full moon. I'm going to be doing full moon readings for people in person in Fort Smith, Arkansas. So that's going to be right on the line between Arkansas and Oklahoma. Like Fort Smith's like right on that line. So if you are in that area of Oklahoma, of course, come out and visit. If you're that area of Arkansas, come out and visit. I'm going to be there again, Fort Smith, on both Saturday and Sunday at the Wyndham Hotel. Okay. Second event is going to be in June, the weekend of June 21st. I'm pretty sure it's the 21st, 22nd. I'm doing that from memory. I will be doing the Spirit Fair with Cindy in Oklahoma City. That's going to be, again, a whole weekend of event of like Saturday, Sunday. I'll put more on the website whenever I go to actually upload these events because I have not done that yet onto the event calendar. And speaking of the website, got a couple changes whenever it comes to that also. Now, when I first started the website, not only did I put a place where you guys can start booking your readings with me, which of course you can still do that, but what I am going to be changing is over the next 2 weeks, when I get some downtime, air quotations on that, because I have not had a lot of it, I'm going to start removing some of the product. Now, the reason I'm doing that really has to do with the tariff situation. If there is a correction in the energy, foreshadowing, uh, later on, that I might add them back on. But really, whenever I look at some of the stuff that's on there, I'm not in love with it. And that's me being completely fair. I picked some stuff that I thought was going to be nice, but I'm not in love with a lot of it. In fact, I actually want to put more emphasis on creating some stuff for you guys. So as the next few weeks continue, I'll start to remove some of the product that's on the website with the idea that later on, I want to add some new stuff in, which takes me to another thing. If you are an artist or if you know somebody that is like a newer artist, I still look at myself as like a newer podcaster in this regard, maybe not a newer astrologer, but definitely a newer podcaster. So I want to work with another startup. So if you have someone in mind that does certain type of artistry, I've got some collaboration ideas that I want to do. I just haven't found the right person yet. So I'm putting it out in the universe, in the ethers. If you are an artist or if you know somebody, send them my way. Okay. 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 Now, it's so interesting to go into this week because we needed the last week to get prepared for this week. We needed to see some of the new, because of what was going on between that Saturn trying to Mars, Uranus sextile to Mars simultaneously, like Mars doing a closeout with them while these two are starting something. So there was a long-term energy setting something into motion while also a new energy beginning simultaneous to that. And I gave some foreshadowing of some of the things that I anticipated that it would do. But I've also seen some other things in the more mundane sense that I thought were incredible just to see in regards to how people were not connecting this weekend. We're not. It was so easy for me to be in a place and watch two people in the exact same room who I know love each other, who are constantly talking to each other, but their conversation is like they were on two different planets pretending to communicate. And it was just the craziest thing to watch because I'm just like, I can see you. Like, you can't see you. You don't even recognize the own pattern. You don't realize he's placating you and just going, ooh, ah, ooh. And at the same time, you are not recognizing that he does not give a shit about what you're talking about. Like, guys, we're not connecting. And whenever I put into the idea of like what I was getting in downloads on top of what I was seeing in the mundane, the disconnection needed to be recognized, it needed to be seen. But not only are we paying attention to the disconnection, we're looking for comfort in different ways. And old people, in some ways, in old energy because of the Venus retrograde. Now, her conjunction to Saturn was also in that trine to Mars. And one of the examples I gave in the month ahead forecast was like, I'm leaving him. I'm not doing that anymore. So I have no other choice but to go back to stay with my parents, go move in with dad, go in this direction because dad is safe. Dad is familiar. We're wanting to go somewhere to feel safe because so much of the energy right now has us feeling so insecure. And if you're going into this week feeling deep levels of insecurity, parts of your mind over the weekend, going into the start of this week, your mind is thinking about, when did I last feel secure? Who do I feel safe with? Now, some people it has to do with a shift in responsibility, going back to somewhere to take care of something or someone with Venus's conjunction to Saturn. And remember, this is one of those vibrations that it encompasses the majority of the month. So there's something about a long-term energy that needs to be rethought, redone, reshaped, that we need to do something different. But for a lot of people, the initial energy is they don't want to do anything different because there is such a huge disconnect. Emotional disconnects, mental disconnects. They're huge right now. And sometimes you can be in a situation where you can just see it on another person's face, like they're, no matter what you say, they're going to do something their way. No matter how you look at it, they're going to do something in that direction. There's no way to change it. No way, shape, no form, no matter what you say. Doesn't matter how many times you say, if you put your finger in that mousetrap, it's going to clamp down on you. They have to do something the hard way. Now, for some people, Venus and Saturn's vibration over the weekend has made you recognize a wound or a situation that isn't as healed as we thought it was. Now, think of the physical concept of healing for just a moment. Sometimes if we have a deep wound, deep scratch, deep scarring, we have to clean it up, wrap the wound, put pressure, and give it time to heal. But if that wound suddenly starts to feel painful after the cleaning and the wrapping, there can be infection. And we have to unwrap, find the infection, drain the infection. Sometimes when people have an issue with their nose, using this as a quick example, the only way to fix it is to re-break it. Please notice the pattern that I'm saying here. The only way to fix it is to drain, re-break, allow something to happen. Sometimes it's going to be a sacrifice. I'm not meaning this in some weird animalistic thing. We have to let somebody learn a lesson the hard way. If nothing else, it protects your sanity. And that takes me into parts of the vibration of this week. Think of the concept of mercy killing, but I don't want to use that because, the YouTube, Spotify gods and blah, blah, blah. They're not going to like that term. So I'm going to call it a mercy fracture, a mercy break. We have to reopen the stitches to get the wound clean. We have to re-break the bone to help it mend properly because something did not happen right before. We have no choice but to go revisit, reopen an old wound that needs to be fixed. Now, for some of you, that old wound is literally going to be your relationship with your parents. Because Venus going back to Saturn, moving back in with daddy. I'm still using that same example. It's not just that. Some of you are going to have no choice but to go talk to an old coworker or an old boss or your old best friend or your ex-husband, your ex-wife, somebody from the past. Because we need to get some kind of aid or clarity in some way. We need something from them. There's something about that responsibility and the time. There's something about the karma that needs to get revisited. We need closure. We need to reopen the wound so it can finally heal properly. We were in a rush before. We didn't pay attention before. We didn't give ourselves enough time to rest and recoup. Sometimes the doctor says, yeah, you should really, stay in bed, or you need to have minimal activity for the next 2 to 3 weeks. But really, after 3 days, you tried to go run a marathon. That didn't do you any favors. Trying to push yourself faster than your body could handle didn't do yourself any favors. And in the long run, it impacted the healing process. Jumping from one situationship to another just created a different pattern with the same pattern with a different dude, different chick, whoever, whatever. And we didn't actually heal anything. Same concept, different example. Something about this week is we need to recognize the pattern, and we need to re-break the bone. We need to do a mercy fracture so we can finally set something straight. Now, that's a lot of mundane examples. Now I'm going to do one big economical example, because you know how I feel with Neptune going into Aries and the whole economics part, because I did a meditative rant on it. For those that don't know, I'll have to cite that in the description of this episode. Sometimes we're going to have to let the economy break for someone to finally learn the lesson. If some people don't think it's going to happen, okay, here you go. Hands off. Now, there's a multitude of ways that hands off is going to work this week. We're going to have certain conversations with people in our lives, and they're going to be dead set that they need to do something one particular way. And you got to let them do it that way. It doesn't matter how many times you can be blue in the face. Don't talk to them. Don't go. Don't call them back. Don't. Yet still, they're gonna do it. Tarot said no, mom said no, dad said no, best friend said no, everybody said no. I'm gonna do it anyways. Let them go. That's their karma, their decision, their choice, their wound to re-break. Let them go. Some of you are going to have to be very hands off this week and just letting things happen naturally. Others of you are thinking you got everything in the bag and everything is running smooth and everything's exactly as you need it to go. And then you're going to face something either by the end of this week or going into next week. And there's a lingering energy that does impact us going into next week that I'll get to here probably in the closing, just to be clear. There's another lingering energy on the back burner all week that I will talk about in the closing. Okay. There's something there that once we reface it, reconnect, revisit, go down memory lane, that little bit of nostalgia, it makes us aware of something else. It can provide clarity we did not have before. Sometimes we romanticize and idealize people or situations from the past. And we put certain people on a pedestal because of how important they were during that time. But now that you've grown, gone down your different paths, and you come back together, you realize it wasn't quite what we thought. That person's not quite who we thought. Or that person was more important than we could have ever imagined. And we walked away from something that was more important than we realized. And I can see a mix of both. It again is going to come down to the timing and karma in a multitude of ways. There's so much of this energy that speaks to either letting some people learn the hard way or just being completely hands off. Some of you are going to be doing a mix of both. Be hands off with your brother, hands off with your best friend, hands off with people at work. But then you're going to go talk to that person from 5 years ago And we're going to have to revisit something to finally close it out, to reset the bone, to finally heal from something that we did not heal from properly before, regardless of how old that original wound was. There's something about that level of depth that's starting to come through based off of Venus's retrograde and her now long-term conjunction to Saturn that we're going to be in all month. It's going to be fun. Okay. We're going to get into the transits. Oh, Monday. We're going to start this off at 6:30 a.m. Central Standard Time because we got 3 things going on all simultaneously right around this hour. So it's easier just to start here. First things first, between 4:57 and 6:42 a.m. Central Standard Time, Venus and Saturn will hit their exact conjunction. This was building all weekend. This was in the vibration all weekend long, but it's actually going exact on Monday. And it's been a dominant part of the vibration in a lot of ways. In addition to this, at 6:08 a.m., that's why I'm sticking to the 6:30, Mercury turns direct. Woohoo! Goodbye, Mercury retrograde. We're going to have some things that we're going to start to set straight now that Mercury is direct. There were some things that we were doing before over the course of the last few weeks, month and a half, that we thought were going to go one way. Tried 1 or 2 ambitious things, realizing that's not quite what we thought it was. And it's going to help us reset one frame of thinking. And I want to be clear about something. The back burner energy that I want to talk about, that's Mercury's energy. And I'm going to talk about him a lot in the closing. Okay. And the third transit to the morning goes exact between 6:38 and 8:30. I'm so sorry, 6:30 a.m. and 8:30 a.m. And this is when Jupiter is going to hit a sextile to the moon. Now, of these, the strongest and most dominant, Mercury turning direct with Venus's conjunction to Saturn. There is something that needs to turn around. There is a new frame of thinking. There is a change in the plan that needs to be encompassed. And certain things that we thought were going to go in one direction, like I said, over the last month and a half, has now changed. And we need to set some things straight, but it's not going to be something that we can immediately set straight. The Venus-Saturn energy, it's going to be going on all month. Mercury just turning direct, he's going to be slow to start moving again. So for a lot of people, there's going to be some dynamics to Monday because there's a lot of little transits to Monday that is setting the stage, but it's also feeding off of everything that's happened over the last 4 to 5 days. And then after they kind of happen, it's like, we have to mentally process them. And Mercury turning direct is ready to start mentally processing something, but not everything that we're going to be processing are we going to know first thing in the morning on Monday. Now, Jupiter is in Mercury sign. Remember, Jupiter and Mercury are in mutual reception. And Jupiter is making a sextile to that moon. The change in our mindset, realizing we need to rethink something, realizing we need to revamp something, make a couple little adjustments, is something that we feel enlightened to do, whether it is on the intuitive download side, or if there's something going on in the actual physical universe that's telling us that. Now, another mundane way that the Venus-Saturn energy can come through, if it's not the downloads of like, I need to go revisit something from the past, you could be going into work first thing Monday morning, having some kind of announcement from a boss, from a CEO, from an authority figure. You can have something that has a legal aspect to it that is impacting something that Venus needs to take care of. But again, she can't take care of it immediately. It's going to take weeks. It's going to take some time to turn something around. So some of us are going to have some mundane things like getting served papers. It can actually be from that level of an authority figure. Some of you are going to be having to change your focus of what you're dealing with around an elder, and you're not going to immediately know what you're doing because you're not used to taking care of somebody like this, having to take on additional responsibilities in some way. Some of you are going to be the crazy uncle that's going to be taking care of kids for a little bit. Some of you are going to be taking care of Pop for a little while. And again, we're not used to it. So we're trying to get our bearings about us. There's some mundane ways that this can come through besides just those main energetic ways of old wounds. I want to be clear, but even the mundane things can still be connected to the old wounds. Okay, moving this along. Between 8:30 and 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, the sun, 17 degrees, 15 minutes, is going to go through a trine with the moon. It's going to be closer to 9:30. It's going to be more exact. Yeah, it is exact. Okay. Oh, 9:30 a.m. Here's the sun, 18 degrees, 1 minute. Here's the moon, 18 degrees, 1 minute. So there's something here about fire to fire, passion to passion, some type of like fueling in the energy, some type of motivation in the energy, some type of direction. This is not a heavy energy, but it is still correspondent with that Venus Saturn. So some of what might be coming to light might be fueling a rage. It can be fueling a frustration. It can be fueling an attitude just as much as it can be fueling an action that we need to take forward. Oh, this is going to be your project now. Something's happened to so-and-so, and we need you to take the lead. We need you to take over. We need you to start doing something different. I was not anticipating this. I'm sure you weren't. Nobody was. Congratulations. Okay. Now, going into the evening time, between 5:30 and 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, so I'm going to get this to 6:30, Chiron is going to go through a trine with the moon. Now, I really want people to pay attention to what they've been feeling from the weekend and recognize that if there's something from the weekend that we're wanting to shed light on, that we feel like we need to talk more through, that we need to give more enlightenment about because of Chiron's trine to the moon. Chiron's playing a big part of the weekend, and I'm not ignoring that. That's why I'm bringing this up right now. There's something about the Chiron energy of, again, that wound that either is so deep we still have not healed, or recognizing a new wound that's starting to come through, or recognizing something about someone that caused certain wounds. Now, think of it again. If you are suddenly taking care of a family member that you're not used to taking care of, if you're taking care of your parent that was a narcissist when you were growing up, we got some old wounds coming to the surface. Let's be clear about that. And there can be certain things around the wounds that are starting to come through in the evening time. Who hurt us, how we got hurt, how we've been dealing with certain things, certain frustrations along this regard. Okay. Now, the next one's going to be really interesting. This is going to happen really close to the later hour. So I want to get this to 11:30 because this is going to encompass both. Between 10 p.m. and midnight, Uranus is going to square the moon. So we're just past that square right here at 11:30. Here's Uranus, 25 degrees, 5 minutes. Here's the moon, 25 degrees, 17 minutes. So again, we're just past it. However, simultaneous to this Uranus square to the moon, Uranus is also going through a sextile with Venus. Now, I kind of talked about this in the month ahead forecast. It's like we find out something unexpected that fuels even more that we don't need to go in the same direction as another person, that we needed to be doing something different, that we needed to move back in with our parents. Uranus is in Venus's sign. Venus is retrograde, moving away from Uranus. So this feels like a fueling energy. Having something being told to us about a person that either we do not know or that we do not see eye to eye with. Because while Venus and Uranus are in their sextile, Venus is technically going through an in conjunction, a quincunx to the moon. So because they're not opposite of each other, they're not in trine, square, sextile, like they're not in a direct hit, they're in an indirect transit. So it's something about this energy of like, we're either having something told to us that just fuels us even more, that we're mad about something, about, again, a person that we know nothing about. We're telling something to someone else that we've left behind, and it's encompassing their judgment towards someone else. Uranus is square to the moon. But there's something here about like a restless opinion that's coming through. And the thing about the sextile between Venus and Uranus is this is felt between 11:45 and 12:04 a.m. going into the 8th. So this energy, the human effect is, for some people, this is going to be a part of Monday night. For others, this is going to be a part of Tuesday. But there is something in this vibration that speaks to like an unexpected change, an unexpected influence, giving information about what somebody should not be doing about a situation they know nothing about. Suddenly everybody has an opinion, even if they have never had anything to do with this type of field before, like that type of thing. You don't know the first thing about nursing, but I know how to take care of someone and you should listen to me, even though they have no clue what you're going through. Yeah, that type of thing. Some of it can be a fueling. Some of it can be a indirect energy of guidance about, again, something that we do not know about. We're not familiar with the whole story. We're familiar with both parties, or we do not see eye to eye with the second party. So there's going to be a lot of tension in this vibration whenever it comes to Monday evening. And again, this is going to take us into Tuesday. Now, the thing about Tuesday is this Venus-Uranus energy. This is the only direct transit to Tuesday. There is no other direct transit. So after the moon square to Uranus, again, that was more exact on Monday evening, the moon's going to go void. It's not doing anything. So as it finishes its tour through Leo, there can be some frustrations. There can be some emotions coming up, indifference and things of this like. At 8:40 a.m. Central Standard Time, so bumped into 9:30, the moon's going to go into Virgo. And again, it's not doing anything. There is no direct transit to Tuesday beyond the lingering energies of what we've been in. Saturn's lingering energy towards Uranus. Venus is lingering conjunction to Saturn. Mercury having turned direct, but not actually moving yet. And now the moon is in Mercury's sign. Now, I said, going through Monday, some of us need to have some things happen on Monday to make us aware, here we go, of what we need to reconsider, of what we need to revamp, of what we need to change, of what we need clarity on. And as you go through the day on Tuesday, there can be stagnant energy. You can feel like you can't move. Mental overwhelm, indifference, there can be confusion, unable to accept change or unable to come to terms with certain things initially. Others are going to be working through certain concepts, working through the logistics of a change, working through the dynamics of what needs to be written out for a change. So something like this, but having very little physical progress over the course of Tuesday and Wednesday because there ain't a whole lot of transits going on. Everything's lingering. So for some people, parts of Tuesday are going to feel very, very stagnant. I'm going to keep this going. We're going to get into Wednesday. Now we're into the 9th. And guess what? We are still in some stagnant, trying to get something in our head revisited, reshaped, redone. And for a lot of people, the back burner energy that I'm going to talk about in the closing is what's trying to come through, but it's not going to directly come through. And again, I'm going to explain that in the closing because there's a transit that's trying to build all week on the back burner. That is not going to go exact. It's not going to happen, but it's going to be a part of a new vibration of next week, even though there's a transit that's not going to happen. I know that sounds weird. You just got to trust me on this. I will explain it more in the closing. But the mental energy of what we need to revamp, revise, redo, restructure, set straight, corrective action, corrective connections, new communication, people that we thought we would do business with before. Suddenly we realize we can't do the same business. So our plan has shifted and changed. And we're trying to get all of the bells, the whistles, cross the I's, dot the T's, shake the babies, kiss them, whatever we got to do to make things clear. And we're still going to be in a major stagnant energy going through the 9th, because on the 9th, there's only one direct transit and it doesn't happen until the evening time. So I'm getting it closer to that. We're going to get to 6:30. Here we go. Between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, Jupiter is going to go through a square with the moon. You can see that right here. Jupiter square to the moon. Jupiter's in the higher authority. Now, Jupiter is hosting Mercury. Mercury and Jupiter are in mutual reception. And there is something here where we can have guidance from the doctor, the guru, the teacher, somebody that gives us faith, like they help restore our faith. They give us a flow, they give us direction. There's something here about this energy. Again, about something that needs to change because we have so many planets in between the mutable and cardinal signs. More mutable right now, but cardinal signs are pretty heavy in there too. We have changes that are necessary because some of the previous things that had been going on for the long term will not connect. Now, some of us need to be building a structure and a process. And it's like, okay, I've cleared out all of the pantry, going off of one of my previous examples from the month ahead. Pop can't have any more sugar. We've got to get this diabetes stuff under control. We've pulled out all of the sugary, snacky things, no more cookies and stuff in the cupboard. We have replaced them with different things that will not be so, activated for his blood sugars. We've got him better foods. We've done this whole process, and it's like going over a checklist of everything the doctor said we cannot have. And also explaining that to another person of starting from here, you can't have those things. No more gummy worms. All of the gummies, the Twizzlers, the whatever have been removed from the house. No more chocolate bars in the freezer. That's an old person thing. I'm telling you, there's something about it. They love their chocolate bars in the freezer or in the refrigerator, something like that. Certain things that are, stashed away in certain places. Like I have pulled every stash that I know that you have. I found stashes I didn't know were even possible. Can there be some tensions? Absolutely. Can somebody be mad about it? Absolutely. But remember, we're in the process of trying to get something going new moving forward. And a lot of people, whatever this new mental energy, it's going to be kind of backburnered until after the full moon. There will be some stagnancy in the air, but that doesn't mean that we're not in the right direction. It's just slow moving. And also we're reshaping, revamping, and still dealing with the lingering effects of transits that have already occurred or are about to occur. Okay. Oh, moving this along. There's nothing else. There was just the one transit on the 9th. So now we're going to get into the 10th. We're getting into Thursday, and there's a lot more going on Thursday. Just to be clear, there's a lot more going on Thursday. Oh, first things first, at 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, I'm sorry, between 8:30 and 10:30 a.m., so I'm going to put this at 9:30, the moon is going to hit this opposition to Venus. Now, I want to be absolutely clear. There is something about this first real transit to the Virgo stuff that feels very, very necessary to either a chain effect of things that are about to happen throughout the entire day, or we're going to be like the little bouncy ball just trying to ping off of 30 different things all at once, being very frustrated that we couldn't get it done the days before. So it's either going to be one continuous, one after another situation, or you are going to be like a pinball trying to bounce between 30 different things to get things accomplished. Now, the moon is making this opposition to Venus. Venus is starting to slow down. She is 48 hours from a retrograde ending. So we are really getting close to something coming to terms. But she is still retrograde. She is the only planet retrograde right now. There is something about her energy about an appearance change, a food change. Venus rules food. Pleasure changes. Desire changes that are going to have, again, like a ping pong effect that's going to follow. Some people are going to be showcasing stuff to their boss of like, this is what we've worked on. And there's something about like what we're presenting not meeting initial expectations. And it creates that pinball ping ponging effect of like, okay, well, we got to go here, and here, trying to do something else. With the moon hitting this opposition to Venus. Now, as this is happening, some of what she's going to go into is like consecutive. And this is why I feel like for some people, it's going to be one thing after another. The ping pong effect or the rippled effect of one thing after another. So there's some consecutive energy. So I'm going to go from 9:30 to 10:30 because between 9:30 and 11:30 a.m., Uranus is going to trine the moon. So we have Uranus 25 degrees, 13 minutes. Here's the moon, 25 degrees, 10 minutes. Backing it up or continuing this one more time, between 10:30 and 12:30 a.m., we've also got the moon hitting the opposition to Saturn. So this 10:30 in the morning, it encompasses the 3 morning transits basically. Venus opposite Saturn, 8:30 to 10:30. Uranus trine the moon, 9:30 to 11:30. Moon opposite Saturn, 10:30 to 12:30. It's going to be a busy, busy morning come Thursday. And some again are going to be like pinballing from one thing after another. Some of whatever happened over the course of the last week is feeding into this, especially whatever happened around the 4th of May. Not May, April. I'm sorry, 4th of April is leading into where we have to get some things done right here. It's leading into what we're having to work on right here, what we're trying to put into order. So it's kind of an after effect of something. There is movement right in this area. Now, after this consecutive energy between 1:30 and 3:30, Mars is going to sextile the moon. Now, Mars and Mercury are trying to enter a trine that is not happening. There is an energy on the back burner that is not happening this week, but is a big part of this week. And I feel like we get a bigger awareness of the back burnered energy based off this part of the transit. But it's not just that going on, because whenever the moon goes through this sextile to Mars, it's also starting its opposition to Mercury. It's also hitting this conjunction to the south node. This is going to be intense for some people. And if we're having issues with intestinal, we become very, very aware of it. If we're having something tied to the body, when the moon hits that conjunction to the south node, there can be something tied to the body. Some people are going to be making a very timely decision to let something or someone go with the moon hitting the conjunction to the south node. Why am I saying it that way? Because Mercury, the ruler of our logical brain, is hosting the moon. As Mercury is hitting that conjunction to the north node, the information, the decision that we feel very construed, drawn, compelled to make right here is to release, to outgrow, to do something that puts us more to minimalization or peace. But with the Mars energy playing into it, there can be a disruption involved. There can be emotional reactions involved. There can be some very unplanned energy coming into this vibration that we are not initially anticipating. And there can be some frustrations. There can be things tied to the misinformation of what has just changed. There can be things about the changed opinion and the change of the plan that's coming into play right here that cannot be ignored. And it can be setting the stage for a lot of things that are going to be more a part of next week. And again, I'm going to explain more of that in the closing. This is the closest we're going to get to that in this week's transit. Okay. Oh, we bumped this into the evening time. At 8:12 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon's going to go into Libra. And it's going to immediately go into an opposition to Neptune. Now, when the moon-Neptune opposition happens, this is simultaneous to Mercury's third and final conjunction to the north node. Now, it had a conjunction literally a week ago, right before the retrograde ended. The one before that was back at the beginning of March, late February, early March. So we have some things that have to do with like the last month and a half for a lot of people that we thought was going to go one way before. But now, because of everything that has occurred through eclipse season and through the retrograde, we realize what we need to change. And some of this for a lot of people can actually still take us back to what happened during the Virgo lunar eclipse, because we just had the moon going through Virgo and the south node is still in the same spot. It's the south node and the north node. They're still in the same spot that they were during that eclipse that happened on March 13th. So there can be parts of this vibration that literally tie back to the start of eclipse season about what we thought was going to go one way. And now we've had sudden erratic changes of plans. That sudden erratic change of plans was kind of like a push and an auto correction to something else that we needed to do. Now, when the moon hits the opposition to Neptune, this is the first moon Neptune opposition. And there's something in this vibration of like inspiration for some, a new idea, a new belief, a new way of doing things, a new concept for some. For others, a spur towards a new treatment. Now, we won't initially understand the treatment thing. Some people, again, it might not be till next week. But there's something in this vibration in both the physical sense of what's going on in our world, as well as the mundane. That is the mundane, as well as the internal download sense of things that we need to look at and are inspired to work with. And that moon hitting that opposition to Neptune can have to do with a effect of something that we've done, new treatments, something about the new medicine, telling someone about those treatments, telling somebody about the idea of a treatment. And there's something brewing that will not completely take shape until next week. I'm going to have to keep saying that. Okay. Oh, there's a lot of energy to Thursday. After that, we're going to get into Friday. We're getting into the 11th. The thing about this, there is only one direct transit to Friday. So a lot of Friday feels like the human effect of like what's lingering between what needs to be taken care of from already in the week, over the last week, or prepping us for what we're going to be doing through the full moon. Now, as soon as the moon goes into Libra, we are in full moon energy. And that means all day Friday, we're going to be in the full moon energy. Venus is going to be stationing to turn direct, and that's not going to happen until the 12th, but there's a spinning, stewing, stirring energy that can come through. And the only transit to Friday is going to be the moon's trine to Pluto. I have a fear. I have a frustration. I'm struggling with something in the universe, some wound, something from the past. Some of us are going to be trying to understand where somebody else is struggling with something and what is going to start to get revealed over the course of the weekend. Again, for a lot of people, it's going to have a deep-seated vibration, a deep-seated wound of something that did not get set correctly before, did not heal correctly before. We jumped the gun. We jumped from one relationship to the next. We just upped and moved and never faced anything. And there's something about needing to understand the fear, the struggle that's going on deep within. And the moon's trine to Pluto happening the most exact in the overnight hours. So 2:30 to 4:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. For some people, this is still going to be a part of Thursday. For other people, this is going to be a lingering effect, carrying some of the other transits will have a lingering effect going into this one for us on Friday. And whenever it comes to Friday, this is the only direct transit. Everything else is either like the carryover from before, or it is the build up to what's happening next. Now, while the moon is going through Libra, still going with that concept, Venus is going to be stewing, stirring, moving, nowhere. Nothing's going on in that regard. And some of us can be going very stir crazy of what we need to do to restore balance, to fix the appearance of certain things, to work on something. Some of us, it's going to be legal aspects because the moon is in Libra. For some of us, it's going to have to do with like all of the paperwork and the care and stuff around that elder and what we need to do to support that elder, or what we need to do to ensure their protection. We need all of the things that we don't have. And there can be a lot of like trying to pull things together vibration over the course of Friday, but there's not a whole lot of direct transits to it. It just feels like a stewing, stirring, spinning in circles, but not getting a whole lot of accomplished vibration. Okay. We're going to keep this going. We're going to get into the 12th. There we go. Now we're into Saturday. Now our first transit to Saturday, it's not happening till the morning time. Between 7:30 and 9:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, Jupiter is going to go through a trine with the moon, air to air. The doctor, the guru, the teacher, our hope, those that feel support, those that need support. And some of us are going to be in dire need of support given the things that are also going to be going on over the course of Saturday. Just want to keep this going. Between 10:49 and 11:12 a.m., so I'm just going to bump this to 10:30, and that's going to be fine. The sun is going to make a conjunction to Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer. Chiron was part god, part centaur. And in ancient mythology, he would go from war to war, healing those that had been wounded in battle. However, in one particular battle, he suffered a wound. Now, the reason he was so successful in the prior battles was because all of those wars were being fought by the weapons of man. But in this one battle, depending on the mythology, some people say it was Hercules, other people say it was Aries, the actual god of war. I usually say Aries. And given that Chiron is in Aries, we're gonna blame the good old god of war. Aries let loose of a bow. He let loose of a weapon of a god. And it went across, and Chiron was injured. Chiron lost an eye. And moving forward, he had the ability to continue to heal the wounds of man, but there was one particular wound he never healed from. There is something about the sun's conjunction to Chiron that speaks to the wound that has never healed. Some people will have something happen over the course of this week that is going to create the wound that will never be healed. Others are going to realize that the only way to finally come to terms and finally do something better and do something different is to break something, to turn something around, to change something. And that speaks to how the rest of the day is going to go on the 12th. So we're not done. We're going to keep it going. As we get into the evening time, the moon is going to make an opposition to Chiron. Now that is going to go the most exact between 5:30 and 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I got this at 6:30. Here's the moon, 22:54. Here's Chiron, 23:0. Between 6 and 8:30, the moon is also going to go through its full moon energy. This is going to go the most exact at 7:23 p.m. But for where I'm at right now, we're fine. The sun is still going to be in the conjunction to Chiron as the full moon perfects. At 8:03 p.m., so I'm just going to bump this 2 hours to 8:30, Venus retrograde will end. Now, Venus is in her exaltation. She is in Jupiter's sign. She's in Pisces. She's also in that conjunction to Saturn. In some ways, she feels like she either needs to do something different to care, take a certain responsibility with Saturn, or she needed to do something different to finally feel safe and secure. Saturn, Venus conjunct Saturn. Now, the thing about Libra is Saturn is said to be exalted there. Even though Saturn isn't there, it's so interesting to have the ruler of this full moon right on top of Saturn. We need the security for some people. For others, it will be the judgment of Saturn. And again, there could be something about this vibration that speaks to creating the wound, the deep-seated wound that will forever be there. But for others, it feels like the only way we can finally turn something around in our lives, to finally heal something, to finally set something straight, is to face the wound, to re-break something. Some of us over the course of this week, most exact during the full moon, but the human effect is throughout the week, we're going to be forced to reconcile, conversate with, deal with something from the past. And it doesn't matter how much we've been told, you don't need to do it. You shouldn't be talking to them anymore. We shouldn't be in this boat anymore. It's like falling on deaf ears, and we have no other choice but to face something. considering this full moon is very loosely in a square to Saturn, not Saturn, I'm sorry, in a square to Mars, some of us are going to be finally dealing with something that we needed to deal with a year ago, last fall in particular, because of that energy around Mars and how much he's going to have a bad influence over the rest of the month. I'm saying bad loosely. It's pivotal influence over the rest of the month. So many of us, we need to reopen a wound. And it's the only way to heal. We need closure from a previous timeline, from a previous situation, so we can finally turn something around. Sometimes we need to reconnect to someone from the past and get the real story. Hear it from their words, hear it from their perspective, because that's the only way that we're going to turn something around. Venus turning direct needs to turn something around. But Venus is in that conjunction to Saturn. We need to feel supported in this turnaround, in this change. We need to feel like it's the right time to finally handle this and do what we need to do to overcome certain fears and overcome certain frustrations. Some of us need to recognize that we need the right person on our side to re-break our nose for us. Like, are you sure this is what you want to do? Are you sure it's going to, I'll make it real fast. Pop. Crack. For those of us that have actually done tomboy shit or, masculine shit, the resetting bones before. Hi. Yeah, it's going to hurt a little bit. Bite on this stick. There's something that needs to get revisited. There are wounds that need to be addressed. And by finally facing certain wounds, there's going to be healing that can follow in the days and weeks ahead. We're coming to some kind of peak energy by the end of the week to understand that. And some people will feel liberated in this full moon. Others are going to sink into depression following the full moon because they're going to feel the break and they're not going to like the consequences or the result from the break. So let's be clear about that. Oh, it's going to be a hell of a full moon, that's for sure. All right, we're getting into the 13th. We're getting into Sunday. Now at 8:55 a.m. Central Standard Time, so going to bump this to 9:30, as soon as the moon goes into Scorpio, we're in a different mindset. Now we are still in full moon vibration, but it is the moon going into Scorpio that makes me think some people, based off of the wound that has to be reopened, some people are going to have to deal with the deep things coming up from the surface. Now, right before, I actually skipped something. You guys are going to watch me make a mistake. Let's back this up a little bit. Now, right before the moon goes into Scorpio, Mars is going to square the moon. That will go fully exact. But Mars is in the higher position, pushing an agenda, forcing something, forcing someone, forcing a change. Mars is in the final degrees of Cancer. So we're getting to an area of the sky where certain things need to be, quote, quote, closed out. So there's some energy, some ideas, some communication that is going to force an agenda to close something out. That'll be something that will continue to be a part of that backburn energy I'm going to talk about in the closing. Let's keep this going. Now, again, 8:55, the moon's going to go into Scorpio. The moon's going to go into Mars's sign and also start mutual reception to Mars. Because remember, Mars is still in Cancer. Some of the things that can come to the surface in the full moon can also bring up the deeper emotions that we, again, needed to work through, that we needed to heal. The purging of certain emotions bubbling to the surface, the tears coming to the surface of things that we had not rectified, that we had not closed out, that start pouring from us. The moon going into Scorpio this time feels very, very intense because it just followed that full moon. And Venus is now direct. The sun is still in that conjunction to Chiron. And not only that, as we continue the day, Between 3:30 and 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to square Pluto. Now, the moon is in the higher authority, looking at Pluto about fear, frustration, power struggles, what it takes to transform, what it takes to heal. Pluto can be a phoenix energy if used appropriately. And a lot of people do not believe me until they've truly felt that phoenix vibration. Other people look at Pluto and they only experience the fear and the shake. But Pluto has been at 3 degrees for a while. Pluto's starting to station. And at the 1st of May, he's going to go retrograde. So this stewing energy around Pluto means we're coming to a term in certain things where we don't need to be as afraid or as triggered anymore. And so much of our energy can speak to how we work through and overcome certain triggers. And some of what's going to be overcome, again, is taking me into that back burner energy that's going on. Now, in this closing, I want to put a little conversation around Mercury and Mars and their pattern or lack thereof. In a lot of ways, it's a lack thereof. But then there's still something that speaks to new coming through. But the news next week. It starts next week. And what I said before is like a lot of people, when they wake up on the 13th, we're waking up in a new normal. That'll be the first day in a very long time. Not a single planet is retrograde. Everything is direct. Therefore, everything is your fault. You have nothing to blame. We'll still be in the full moon energy, but like you have nothing to blame but yourself. Coming to terms with certain things. At the start of the Mars retrograde, back in December, Mercury was also retrograde. And they were entering a trine, Mercury going backwards, but right around the time Mercury was ready to re-engage this trine, Mars started to go backwards. So we were trying to connect to something back then that we never got to connect. Certain things did not happen. Changes appeared, changes in the opinion, changes in the plan, changes in the motivation. And we had to go back and deal with some past stuff, go deal with some changes, go deal with some other things. Mars retrograde in Leo at first, but then by January, went back into Cancer. Now, in late February, we did have Mercury's trine to Mars, and that was literally the transit that occurred right as Mars was turning direct. So we had one idea of a passion, of a desire, of something we needed to work through, of something that we needed to start to cultivate, start to put together, nurture in some way. And we had one idea of something that now we realize that idea was okay, but it wasn't the end all be all. It wasn't completely correct. And over the course of the Venus Mercury double retrograde whammy that we've been going through, there have been certain reconsiderations to a path that we thought was going to be unfolding. And I want to say reconsiderations because some of us, we try to go 100 miles per hour right out the gate. It is what it is. We don't have the chance to think everything through, become very impulsive. And the thing about those retrogrades being in Mars' sign in Aries, it made us very impulsive. There were some impulsive things that had to occur for us to realize, oh, we jumped the gun a little bit. And the thing about the end of the Mercury retrograde is it's making us rethink some of the prior plan, the prior agenda, the prior situations. And we're going to be coming to terms with the fact that, oh, yeah, it's not quite what I thought it was. But now we can tinker with something. We can alter something. We can spin the dial a little bit to tune into something bigger, better, stronger, more capable. And a lot of this is going to feed into next week. Because one of the things that's going to happen next week is that both Mercury and Mars building into a trine that never actually occurs this time, they're going to change signs, but there is still something about Mars's influence over Mercury that cannot be ignored. and the fact that Mercury is going to go into Aries and make its first conjunction to Neptune in Mars's sign. So even though we never get the exact trine between those two, there's something about his influence of what needs to be brought to light, of the things that need to be showcased, about the power that needs to be seen, about the plan that needs to be enacted, the plan that we were not completely privy to a few weeks ago, is on the back burner every day this week, ready to go into place next week and forward, ready to take shape into the new normal. But we're not completely into the new normal until we get through whatever wound, whatever breakage, whatever thing that we're dealing with this week, in the multitude of ways that we're going to be dealing with it. And I meant what I said. There's some people that the only way that we can get through this week and that they can understand another option is if you let them fall on their face, if you let something fail, if you let someone do the stupid thing. Recognize that you cannot control everything and everyone, and we just need to let some people go do the stupid thing. And then afterwards, we don't have to say, I told you so. It's more along the lines of, did you learn the lesson yet? Was that a good idea? No, then don't do it again. Are you ready to accept that we don't do it again? Perfect. You don't have to say, I told you so. It's more along the lines of like, did we learn the lesson? We did. Finally, it's set up here. Great. Can we do this now? Can we focus over here now? Can we try something else now? Can we do this other thing now? In some ways, the failure is necessary for this other thing to happen. That's going to have so many ways that it's going to come through this week. And it's going to be crazy to watch Bloomberg and the economy this week. It's going to be very crazy to watch that. Some things are going to have to fall, fail, break. Some of us are going to have to purposely let something get broken to reset the wound, to reset the bone, to help it mend properly. We didn't do something right the first time. So now we have to do something different. There's a multitude of ways it's going to come through. It's a multitude of ways it's going to impact people. Whenever you have some moment with a loved one, your best friend, your boss, and they're announcing something that everybody's starkly against, and that's more likely to happen around Monday, just starkly against them, like, no, I don't want to, no. There's no convincing them. There's no convincing them. You have to let it fall. You have to let them fail. You have to let them face plant. It is what it is. We're so deep in it now, there's no choice. We're just going to have to let some things happen. Now, some people are going to be very compelled to go in a certain direction this week. And either by the end of the week or the first of the new week, they could be right. They could be pushing something forward. They could be a part of that back burner energy, and they could be taking something into that new normal, But others are going to do something to the point that they fail. And you can't always tell the difference until we let them do what they're going to do. You got to let them try. You got to let them fail. You got to let them learn the lesson. But if it's more of the back burner energy, then you got to let them win. You got to let them take action. You got to let them take the steps. You got to let them have the meetings so something new can finally come through in the weeks ahead, in the new normal. Let it break. That's the best thing I can say this week. Let it break. Let it happen. Face the wound. Let's heal it correctly this time. Okay. Okay. I love and appreciate every single one of you. Like I said, I'm going to be making some changes on the website. I will be putting the events on the calendar. I have not done that yet. It's been a very busy week. If you are wanting to book sessions with me, of course, go to the website, www.thespirituallyboujee.com. Go to astrological consultations, and then everything is listed at this time being. So I love and appreciate every single one of you. I will talk to everybody very, very soon. Subscribe.